Hello there, it's Cassie. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. With blending tools being a big deal in the crafting industry right now, I thought I would pick some up and give them a try. These ones I bought are not the ones you will find in any craft store website. This video is not a comparison of the ones from the craft stores to the ones I bought. This video is simply my first impressions of some inexpensive makeup brushes that I'm going to use for some crafting. So let's go ahead and take a look. I found these makeup brushes on Amazon and their price point was under $10, so that's what appealed to me, was that price. And it came with all these different brushes, and these are called the Vosges makeup brushes. And they're super soft, they're bendable, they're pliable. I think I could just touch them all day because they're so soft. And so far, I mean, I guess just by looking at them, because I don't have anything to compare them to, they seem like they might do the trick. But I don't know, because they're really inexpensive, so I thought, all right, let's give this a try. I'm going to use these with some regular Distress inks, and I'm also going to use these with some Distress Oxide inks. And we're going to end up having 4 cards at the very end of all that creating, using a couple different products. This one is the Joyful Heart Bears from My Favorite Things, along with that Double the Love die, and I do have that Miss You die in there, but I don't end up using it. So I've got some Kansan XL watercolor paper. I thought that this stuff would work just fine for blending, and I am just inking up my Vosges brush, the biggest one, with some Twisted Citron ink. And I have to say that my first impression is these babies work amazing. And so to clean them off, because obviously I'm not going to buy a bunch of different brushes for all my different colors, I just am using a micropore cloth, and I'm rubbing it on the micropore cloth and then testing it out on a piece of scratch paper, and it cleaned off beautifully. There was no issue with the clean off. So I'm going to use the second largest one with some scattered straw, and I picked up a lot of color there, but look at how that blends out so nicely. I am just shocked at how well these work. They give a nice soft blend, and they'll even blend out even a little bit further, and you can darken it up if you want, go soft if you'd like, depending on your touch. And I'm thrilled. I love these. Sometimes with my blender sponges, you can get a harsh line with the circular part of the sponge, and that can be pretty frustrating, especially with the Distress inks. But I think I found the tool. I mean, I'm not going to get rid of my sponges because there's definitely use for those as well. But these blender brushes are really, really nice. And it's funny. I don't know the first thing about makeup, honestly. The only thing I know is what my daughter teaches me, my teenage daughter. And thank goodness for YouTube, because that's how that sweet girl learned how to do her makeup. Because if she'd learned from me, she'd look like a clown. So makeup is not my strong suit. So when I saw these, I was like, well, how on earth would you blend makeup with these? And she came down, and I was just amazed at these brushes. And she goes, well, yeah, Mom, they're meant to, blend makeup. So of course they're going to blend your ink really nicely. Okay, whatever. I'll take her word for it, because I honestly don't know. So then I decided, after I cleaned my brushes off really nicely, and it really didn't take much, I would try the Distress Oxides to see if there was much of a difference with the blending in that. And honestly, there wasn't. They blended just as smoothly, just as beautifully. I won't get rid of my ink, my sponges, because like I said, those have their own benefit as well. But I really, really like the soft blend that you're able to get with these makeup brushes. These were great, and the price point was great as well. And I'm doing this right over my my Tim Holtz glass media mat. And the cleanup, of course, is super easy on all of it. I don't even really need too much water. I'm just using my micropore cloth and picking up the mess that I make. And then I'll move on to the next color after I've cleaned off the makeup brush. Then that last color is Worn Lipstick. So I really like this color combination, the Twisted Citron, the Scattered Straw, and the Worn Lipstick. I thought these blended really nicely together. And again, super shocked at how those makeup brushes will give a soft blend and clean up so nicely and not pick up color from the other that I already had on there. It just cleaned off so easily. And I do apologize for my camera going in and out like that. Sometimes it doesn't know what it wants to focus on. So here we have the Distress inks and the Distress Oxide inks comparison together, and you really can't tell much of a difference. So moving on to my stamping. So we'll go ahead and finish these cards. I have those Joyful Heart Bears that I have stuck inside of my Mini Misty, along with some Express It cardstock. And I'm going to ink these up with Memento Tuxedo Black ink. Someone asked me why I liked the Express It cardstock so much. And I guess I would just have to say I like the blend that I get when I'm coloring. I think Neenah works out really nicely as well, but I like the way these just blend on top of this paper so nicely. All I can say is you'd have to give it a try, maybe, if you're willing, if you're in the market to try something different, because I really like this paper. I won't shy away from Neenah cardstock, but if I have a choice, I'll always pick this. On to my coloring. I have the E's out because I'm going to color my bears, and I have E15 and E07. Typically these are not colors that I probably would have stuck together, especially if you look at their marker caps. You wouldn't think that those two would go together. But I have the hex chart from Sandy Allnock, and I will link that down below in case that's something that you are interested in. And it puts colors together that you may not necessarily think would go together. At least it puts them side by side so you can look at them a little bit differently. And so because of that, I grabbed the E15 and the E07, and then I got to thinking about how the E's are just a mixed spectrum of color. And so it's always a great idea if you have Copics or even any alcohol markers that you have to blend them out, to have like a little sketchbook that you can blend with and give that a shot. Just, you might grab different colors that you wouldn't typically put together, and you might find that they blend really nicely. I really like the way that E07 sits on top of the E15. It gives this bear sort of a reddish tint, maybe a reddish orange tint. And let me explain what the E, or the first digit in that Copic line means. So that first digit represents the level of saturation. So the lower the level, or lower the number, the more vibrant the color is. And that second digit, that last digit, represents how bright or light a color is. So the higher the number, the darker the color, which is why I often, when I'm speaking of the colors, I don't, if it's, E15, I don't say E15, I call it E15, so that you are aware of the saturation level and the brightness or lightness level. So that's why I talk about them the way that I do. So I'm just coloring these little bears, and there's no real rhyme or reason to where I'm putting my shadowing necessarily. I'm just putting it where I think it might look good, making sure that I think there's some light where his nose or his forehead would be, and then I'll blend those colors out and then go back in with that E07 just to add a little bit darker tone. I didn't want 3 shades for these bears. I didn't think it was necessary, although you could very well do that. I just stuck with those. And I do like experimenting with the different colors. If you noticed, I did some bears the other day, and I used a completely different color palette as well. So now we'll move on to coloring all the other parts. I'm doing a very simple color palette, mostly pinks and then the browns for the bear. And I do use some yellows for the little bees. But I am starting off with RV11 for my heart. That'll be my lightest color on my pinks. And these are small enough areas that I don't mind coloring the 2 spots together. Typically, if I have a large area to color, I will stick with one and blend all in the one area and then, maybe come back. But these were small enough areas that I wasn't so concerned about the Copics drying too quickly. My next color was RV34, and my third color is R85. So the R, of course, stands for the reds, and the RV stands for red violets. And I really like the way that these blended together. Once again, I used my hex chart to kind of take a look at how they lined up or how they looked close to each other. And so I ended up deciding to use all 3 of those colors for all of my pinks. Because the rest of the coloring is pretty simple and I end up cutting off some of it anyway, I'm going to go ahead and just tell you that I finished up my coloring, and then I fussy cut everything out, and then we'll move on to starting assembly. Off screen, I had prepared 2 more backgrounds using the blender brushes and inks, and so now I'm going to use my favorite things, Double the Love dies, on all 4 backgrounds. And to do so, I just use some micropore tape to secure the dies, and then I run those panels through my die cutting machine on all 4 panels. I just have some white card bases for each of my cards, and I'm going to use some liquid glue to start adhering those Distress Oxide and Distress Ink panels down to the front of those cards. And off screen I had also used the same die, the Double the Love die. I used that on white cardstock several times so that I could stack them up for some added dimension. So I've put some liquid glue in there, and each one of those is stacked about 3 times just with the white cardstock. And then I can start stacking the colored ones on top if I'd like to. So I'll take the inside of the O and I will put that down in the center, just making sure that the color's fairly lined up. And then I will start using that liquid glue to adhere the other letters on top. And this way it just gives just a little bit of added dimension, so you can tell that those are definitely separate from the background, but they're still the same color, obviously. I always love this look. I don't do it very often, but I sure love the way it looks. And then if you tilt it to the side, you can just see a little bit of white, so there's that added dimension. As an afterthought, I did grab my Distress water sprayer and I flicked some water all over the front of each of these. I wish I'd been thinking ahead of time before, because these are Distress inks and Distress Oxide inks, so they do react with water, and I love that look on the back there, so that's what I did. And now to assemble the rest of the card, I'm just going to take some foam tape and put that on the back of one of the images, and I'm just going to stick him on the V and the E just to make it look like he's standing there. After all the cards were assembled, I did grab some sentiments from this stamp set. I grabbed a separate one for each of the 4 cards that I thought represented the little bear on the front, and then I just stamped that on the inside using Memento Tuxedo Black ink. Some of these sentiments are so cute. Everything about you fills my heart with joy. Then your heart and my heart are very old friends. And this is what they look like as a finished cards. I would love to know what you think. Do you have blender brushes? Do you use them? What do you like about them? What do you not like about them? And yeah, so I'd love to know what you think. Anyway, if you liked this video, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. And as always, guys, thank you for stopping by.